James Earl had one of the greatest voices in history. But can you believe that the legendary voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa was once silent? James Earl Jones, whose voice became famous worldwide, spent much of his childhood barely speaking due to a severe stutter. This is how his incredible journey started, but it didn't stay that way for long. James Earl Jones was born on January 17, 1931, in Arkabutla, a small rural community in the state of Mississippi. He said in one of his interviews that his only communication was with the animals on his grandparents' farm. "I did communicate with the animals quite freely," he said. "They don't care how you sound. They just want to hear your voice." For nearly 8 years, this was his reality. The turning point of his life came through his high school teacher, Donald Crouch. At the time, James was a quiet and reserved student, mostly because of his severe stutter. He avoided speaking because he was embarrassed by it. But his life changed suddenly through one simple task. One day, Jones wrote a poem for class, which he thought would be read silently like any other assignment. But his teacher, Donald Crouch, had a different idea. Crouch, suspecting that the poem might not have been Jones's work, challenged him in a way that would shape his future. He told Jones that if he wrote the poem, he needed to prove it by standing in front of the class and reciting it from memory. For someone who had spent years avoiding speaking altogether, this was a terrifying challenge. The thought of standing in front of his classmates with all eyes on him, knowing that his voice might fail him, was almost too much to bear. Jones had grown used to staying silent to avoid the shame his stutter brought him, but now he had to face his fear directly. Despite how scary it sounded, he took on the challenge. He stood in front of the class, feeling exposed and vulnerable, but determined to prove that the poem was his. His stutter made it difficult, but he made it through. The words were his own, and as he spoke them aloud, something shifted within him. Though his speech wasn't perfect, he realized at that moment that he had a voice worth hearing. The act of speaking, of sharing his own words with the world, gave him a new sense of confidence. This moment was a breakthrough for Jones. It showed him that he didn't have to let his stutter control him or define his future. With the encouragement of his teacher, he began to work on his public speaking. With time, he slowly but surely overcame the fear that had kept him silent for so many years. It wasn't done overnight, but it was an important first step toward finding his voice. The challenge his teacher gave him, which he thought would be a great embarrassment, helped his future. He began to explore public speaking and acting, realizing that the voice he had once feared could become his greatest asset. It was the beginning of a journey that would eventually lead him to roles as powerful and iconic as Darth Vader in Star Wars and Mufasa in The Lion King. That single moment in high school helped him become one of the most famous voices in film history. Not a lot of people know that James Earl Jones didn't start out wanting to be an actor. When he first went to the University of Michigan, he was studying to become a doctor. That's right before he became the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa. He was preparing for a future in medicine. But as life often goes, things didn't turn out the way he initially planned. As a pre-med student, he struggled with the tough coursework. He found that his heart wasn't truly in it. The pressure of trying to become a doctor weighed on him, and after a while, he realized it wasn't the path he wanted to follow. So, he made a bold decision. Instead of sticking with pre-med, Jones decided to study drama. This wasn't an easy choice. Giving up a stable and respected career in medicine for the uncertain world of acting took courage, but for Jones, it was the right move. In drama, James Earl Jones found something special, a place where his voice, which was once a source of insecurity because of his childhood stutter, became his greatest strength. He started performing in university theater productions, and it quickly became clear that he had a talent for the stage. His deep, rich voice and commanding presence began to draw attention, and soon enough, people took notice of his potential. This shift from medicine to acting wasn't just about changing majors. It was about embracing a passion that had been hidden for years. Jones found that acting gave him a sense of purpose and fulfillment he hadn't experienced in pre-med. The stage allowed him to explore the full ability of his voice and emotions, turning what was once a weakness into a powerful tool. It was during this time that the seeds of his legendary career were planted. By choosing to pursue acting, James Earl Jones opened the door to a world of opportunities. He left behind the idea of becoming a doctor and stepped into a new role, one that would allow him to touch the lives of millions through film, theater, and television. His early decision to change course may have seemed risky at the time, but it led to a career that crossed over 6 decades and made him one of the most iconic voices in entertainment history. Before becoming famous for his film roles, James Earl Jones was a respected Shakespearean actor. His ability to take on complex roles made him stand out in classical theater. Jones took on some of Shakespeare's most famous characters, including Othello, King Lear, and Claudius in Hamlet. His performances were powerful and emotional, and they helped establish him as one of the best stage actors of his time. Jones's role as Othello was particularly important. At a time when opportunities for black actors in theater were very limited, he brought new depth to the role and earned praise for his performance. His success in roles like Othello showed that black actors could take on major parts in classical theater and succeed. This helped open doors for future actors of color in theater and film. James Earl Jones's voice is truly legendary. It's deep, powerful, and known to have brought some of the most famous characters in film history to life. His voice is a legacy in pop culture, with each generation knowing him for a different iconic role. For baby boomers, he will always be the menacing voice of Darth Vader in the Star Wars saga. Gen Xers remember him as the regal King Jaffe Joffer from Coming to America. And for millennials, he will forever be the wise and loving Mufasa from Disney's The Lion King. What makes James Earl Jones so remarkable isn't just the sound of his voice, but it's the incredible range of characters he could represent. He could go from playing the cold, commanding Darth Vader, whose voice sent chills down audiences' spines, to the warm, fatherly figure of Mufasa, who guided Simba with kindness and wisdom. His voice wasn't just something you listened to, it was something you felt. Whether he was delivering the unforgettable "I am your father" line or narrating The Circle of Life, his voice had a way of pulling you in and holding your attention. It made every word feel important and every moment memorable. The best part of his career is how it went across generations, touching the lives of so many people. From children sitting in awe as they watch The Lion King for the first time, to adults who can't help but revisit Star Wars again and again, his voice became a constant presence in film. It's hard to imagine these iconic movies without him. His voice is so connected to the characters that it's become a part of their identity. His voice has been a constant presence across commercials, documentaries, and even historical narrations. From the famous "This is CNN" tagline to his audiobook readings of literary classics like the Bible, his voice brought flair to everything he touched. Whether you're listening to a sports event narration, a commercial, or a historical documentary, his voice has likely guided you through moments both large and small. Yet, behind that legendary voice is a man who, at one point, couldn't speak without stuttering. His early struggle with speech only makes his achievements more inspiring. It proves that even the greatest voices can come from the most difficult challenges. James Earl Jones turned what was once his greatest difficulty into the very thing that made him famous. His voice will continue to inspire and captivate for generations to come. Throughout his long career, James Earl Jones was recognized with many awards that celebrated his talent and hard work. He was close to achieving the rare EGOT status, which refers to winning an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award. Jones won 2 Tony Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, and a Grammy Award. Although he never won a competitive Oscar, he received an Academy Honorary Award in 2011 for his lifetime of outstanding work in the film industry. Jones's first major win came in 1969 when he earned a Tony Award for his role in The Great White Hope, where he played a fictional version of the first black heavyweight boxing champion, Jack Johnson. This role also earned him an Oscar nomination, putting him on the map as a major talent in Hollywood. His second Tony Award came in 1987 for his powerful performance in August Wilson's Fences, where he portrayed a complicated, hard-working father. On television, Jones won 2 Emmy Awards in the same year, 1991. He earned one for his role in Gabriel's Fire, a series about a former police officer, and another for his part in Heat Wave, a film about the Watts riots. Jones also won a Grammy for his work on Great American Documents, where he lent his voice to historical speeches and writings. Jones's many honors reflect the impact of his work. In 1985, he was inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame, recognizing his excellence on stage. In 1992, he received the National Medal of Arts, awarded by the U.S. government to celebrate his contributions to American culture. He was honored by the Kennedy Center in 2002, a prestigious award given to those who shape performing arts in the United States. In 2017, he received a special Tony Award for Lifetime Achievement, a final acknowledgement of his influence on both theater and film. While James Earl Jones is most famous for his incredible voice, the man behind that voice had his challenges and victories. One part of his life that many people don't know about is his complicated relationship with his father, Robert Earl Jones. Robert, who was one of the first black actors to make it on stage and screen in America, left James and his mother when James was just a baby. After his father's departure, he was raised by his maternal grandparents, John Henry and Maggie Connolly, who moved from Mississippi to a farm in Michigan as part of the Great Migration. The Connollys, like many African American families of that time, relocated to escape the harsh racial climate of the South and seek better opportunities in the North. They settled in Dublin, Michigan, where Jones would spend the remainder of his childhood. This had a huge impact on James's early life, and it wasn't until the 1950s, when James had already started building his acting career, that he and his father reconnected. Despite this rough beginning, James didn't let it hold him back. He worked hard, making a career that would eventually surpass his father's legacy. But it wasn't just his voice that made James a star. It was his complete dedication to the craft of acting. Whether performing Shakespeare on stage or portraying unforgettable characters on screen, Jones brought more than just his voice to his roles. He was deeply committed to understanding his characters and brought a real sense of authenticity to each performance. This dedication set him apart and earned him respect as one of the greatest actors of his time. Through it all, James Earl Jones remained humble, always valuing hard work. He understood the power of his voice, but also the power of determination and staying true to his passion. His life stands as an example of what can be achieved when you refuse to let your past define you. Jones was known for being a humble man, and his family life reflected this side of him. He preferred to keep things simple, spending time at home with his loved ones rather than living a flashy Hollywood lifestyle. His quiet nature and deep sense of responsibility to his family gave him balance. grounding him in a world filled with fame and attention. He didn't just make a name for himself in the entertainment industry, he also played a crucial role in changing the landscape of black representation in film and theater. During the 1960s, a time when racial tensions were high and opportunities for black actors were limited, Jones was one of the few black performers to break into mainstream success. He made an important impact on black representation in the arts. At a time when opportunities for black actors were limited, he broke barriers and showed that black actors could take on leading roles in theater and film. His success helped pave the way for future generations of black performers, and his legacy will continue to inspire them for years to come. Jones became a symbol of black excellence when it was needed most. In roles like Jack Jefferson in The Great White Hope and President Dillman in The Man, he portrayed strong, powerful black men in a way that defied the typical stereotypes of the time. He wasn't just playing characters, he was showing audiences that black actors could take on complex leading roles with depth and strength. This made him a pioneer, helping to open doors for future generations of black performers who would follow in his footsteps. Although Jones mostly stayed out of the political spotlight, his work spoke loudly. His characters carried a message that went beyond entertainment. Jones showed the world that black actors could hold their own in major roles and shine in any genre, from Shakespeare to blockbuster films. His performances helped reshape the way black men were viewed in film and television, laying the foundation for more authentic and diverse portrayals in the years that followed. The world was left in shock when news broke of James Earl Jones's passing on September 9, 2024, at the age of 93. Though he had lived a long and extraordinary life, his death marked the end of an era. A huge figure, both literally and figuratively, Jones's presence in the entertainment world was unmatched. His iconic voice, known across the globe, had become a symbol of authority and wisdom. Jones passed away at his home in Pawling, New York, surrounded by loved ones. Though he had retired from acting in his later years, his influence in Hollywood and on the stage remained ever present. His death felt like the final curtain closing on one of the most memorable careers in entertainment history. The tributes began pouring in almost immediately, with many reflecting on how James Earl Jones's work touched generations. His contribution to the arts left behind a rich legacy that surpassed film, television, and theater. Whether it was through his roles in major blockbusters or his commanding stage presence in Shakespearean productions, Jones left a legacy on the craft of acting. His passing was more than the loss of a Hollywood legend. It felt like saying goodbye to a piece of cultural history that had shaped so many of our collective experiences in entertainment. As soon as the news of James Earl Jones's passing broke, tributes from fellow actors, directors, and public figures flooded social media and news outlets. His influence in Hollywood and beyond was undeniable, and his death sparked an outpouring of admiration, grief, and gratitude from some of the biggest names in the industry. One of the first to respond was actor Mark Hamill, who worked closely with Jones on Star Wars, where Jones famously voiced Darth Vader. He shared on X a headline of Jones's death with a tweet saying, "Rip, Dad." Denzel Washington, who has often cited Jones as a major influence on his acting career, called him a hero and mentor. In an interview with Variety, Washington shared, "He's my hero," Washington tells Variety. "My college theater career started because of The Emperor Jones and Othello with James Earl Jones." Former U.S. President Bill Clinton also paid tribute, releasing a statement that praised Jones's ability to shape culture. James Earl Jones was a brilliant actor who brought to life some of the most iconic characters ever. I'll always be grateful for his kindness through the years, including his participation at my inaugural gala in 1993, and for all the entertainment his masterful performances gave me and so many others. LeVar Burton, another iconic figure in the entertainment industry, expressed his sorrow, stating that there will never be another of his particular combination of graces. Burton has worked alongside Jones and admired his talent. Actor Wendell Pierce, who starred in The Wire, also paid tribute, calling Jones the living embodiment of artistry, integrity, creativity, and dignity, and shared how Jones had inspired him to pursue acting. Other celebrities, like Octavia Spencer, Rosario Dawson, and Coleman Domingo, shared their heartfelt messages on social media. Spencer described Jones as legendary, adding that his voice and talent will be remembered forever, while Dawson posted a tribute that honored him as a king and thanked him for his contributions to film. The outpouring of love and respect from Hollywood and around the world was due to the deep impact he had on the world. His passing leaves a void that will never truly be filled, but his legacy, both in his work and in the lives he touched, will live forever. When we look at the incredible life and career of James Earl Jones, one thing stands out above all. His legacy is just as powerful as his iconic voice. He taught us all that the obstacles we face can turn into our greatest strengths, and that even the quietest voices can grow to be heard around the world. Although James Earl Jones is no longer with us, his legacy remains very much alive. Every time we rewatch The Lion King, Star Wars, or Coming to America, we are reminded of the unmatched power he brought to each role. He was a true force of nature. His voice will continue to inspire, entertain, and leave a lasting impact on generations to come. Thanks for watching.